Hi, this is Mrs. Holbrook, and this is the video lesson 2.1a on solving equations. We are dealing with variables on both sides of the equal sign for this video. Inverse operations, that's how we undo something in mathematics. So what operations do we need to think about? Well, our most common are add, subtract, multiply, divide, square, square root. The same idea works for cube and cube roots, and we can talk about other ones as they come up. But to begin with, how do we undo addition? We subtract. So then how do you undo subtract? We would need to add. Multiply, the inverse of that is divide, and the inverse of division is multiplication. If something is squared, to undo that, we need to take the square root, and if something is inside a square root, we need to square it to get rid of the square root symbol. So let's do a couple practice problems together. To solve this, we need to undo the operations. We have the problem 3m minus n equals 2m plus n, and they want us to solve for m. So m needs to be alone. So let's move this minus n. How do we do that? Well, again, they're subtracting, so to undo subtract, we add. Since they're subtracting in, we use the inverse, we add. And that's going to give us 3m alone on this side because we added n here, so that added up to 0 and eliminates or disappears. So 3m equals 2m plus n, and here's the n that we just added, because remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And if we combine these n's together, we get 3m equals 2m plus 2n. So m still is in two different places and it's not alone. So let's move this 2m. Well, there's no sign in front of this 2m, so we have to assume that it's positive. So no sign means it's positive, so to undo a plus 2m, we would have to subtract it or do a minus 2m. That gives us 3m minus 2m equals 2n. Well, 3m minus 2m is just plain old m, and m equals 2n. m is alone now, so you're finished. That is your solution. M equals 2n. So let's try another one. We have 1/2 r plus 3s equals 1, and they want r alone. So kind of think to yourself where it is that we should start. Since the fraction 1/2 is with the r, we're going to deal with that part last. So we're going to begin by dealing with this 3s. How do we do that? Well, again, they add, so we're going to subtract. So subtract 3s from here leaves us with just 1/2 r. Subtract 3s from 1 and we have 1 minus 3s. So 1/2 r equals 1 minus 3s. Well, what does it mean when they have the 1/2 and the r written side by side? That means that they're multiplying it. The 1/2 with the r is being multiplied. So we can divide by 1/2 or multiply by the inverse of 1/2, which is 2. That's what I prefer to do because dividing by fractions looks messy and ugly. So that leaves us with r equals 2 times the quantity 1 minus 3s. Well, technically r is alone already, but that's not how we like to leave things. We need to finish this by distributing the 2. So 2 times 1 gives us 2. 2 times negative 3s is negative 6s. So r equals 2 minus 6s. And I'm sorry, on the last one I didn't give you much of a chance to press pause in case you wanted to write more down. Alright, let's try another one. Here we have x plus k divided by j equals 3/4. Again, we're looking for x. Well, oh, hey, I didn't hide that. Oops. Alright, x plus k is being divided by j. So the first step to get x alone is we have to get rid of this divide by j. And we do that by multiplying both sides by j. So since x is being divided by j, you need to multiply, which gives you, ta-da, now that's supposed to show up. Again, I told you already I'm not a perfect teacher. I make mistakes all the time. So when you multiply by j, the j divided by j equals 1, so we don't see that anymore. All we see is this x plus k over here. And since we multiplied 3/4 by j, we get 3/4 j here. Still, we're looking to get x alone, so how do we get rid of this plus k? You're right, we subtract k. So x is 3/4 j minus k. Okay, are we ready for a tough one? Because this last example I'm going to give you is a toughie. Try a hard one. We have k times the quantity y plus 3z equals 4 times the quantity y minus 5, and we're trying to solve for y. First step, Does anybody remember algebra from before? We're going to need to use the distributive property. So we're going to take k times y and k times 3z. Then we're going to distribute 4 to the y and distribute 4 to the negative 5. And we get ky plus 3kz equals 4y minus 20. Again, we are working to get y alone. I'm going to start by dealing with this minus 20. So how do we deal with minus 20? You're going to have to add 20. And again, when you add 20 here, that leaves us with just 4y. And then we're just going to write the plus 20 in after the 3kz. So ky plus 3kz plus 20 equals 4y. Well, it starts to look like it's not going to be that hard to get y alone, but we still have y on both sides of the equal sign. So let's move the ky with the 4y. Again, there's no sign in front of the ky, so we have to assume that it's positive, so we subtract it, which gives us 3kz plus 20 equals 4y minus ky. Now, I have to tell you, this is kind of where I got stuck for a few minutes when I was working on this on my own, because it's been a little while since I've thought about this stuff. And I realized that this is a special situation that we need to deal with. Our y's are together, but they're not alone. So we need to pull the y out of the right side. So we're going to take the y away from here and away from here. So that leaves us 3kz plus 20 the same. And then this is how I can show that I pulled that y out. So I have y and then in parentheses 4 minus k. Well, now that makes the end of this look a little bit easier, because now I just need to get rid of this 4 minus k. Well, what does it mean that these are written side by side like this? That means that they're multiplying. So we have to decide, see, I can't even talk tonight. We need to divide each side by 4 minus k. So our final answer is 3kz plus 20 divided by 4 minus k equals y. So that was a tough one. This step right here is what got me for a minute, but once I realized what I needed to do, it was a little easier. So here are 3 practice problems for you to do before you come back to class tomorrow. We will start class by going over these. Try the best that you can. Look at the few sample problems that we did together. Remember, you will get points for taking notes and for having these finished. Even if they're wrong, you're still going to get points for having these finished. And any questions that you have, we can talk about at the start of class. I hope you have a great night.